Hey, I hope you're doing well. I want to take a moment to talk about someone who left an incredible mark on the world of movies, storytelling, and culture. Robert Redford. As many of you have probably seen in the news, he passed away at the age of 89. And honestly, this one feels like the end of an era. So, let's take a few minutes together to remember his journey, the highlights of his career, and the legacy he leaves behind. Robert Redford's story really does sound like something out of a movie. He was born in 1936 in Santa Monica, California, and he didn't come from wealth or Hollywood connections. In fact, his early years were full of challenges. He studied art, traveled, and even struggled to find his footing before he turned to acting. I find that really inspiring. How many of us have felt a little lost before finding our path? Have you ever had a moment in life where the road you thought you were on suddenly changed? That's what happened with Redford. By the late 1960s, he was becoming a household name. His charm, his looks, but also his ability to bring depth to a role, it all came together in movies like Barefoot in the Park with Jane Fonda. And then, of course, came the classics, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, The Way We Were, All the President's Men. If you've seen any of those films, you know he wasn't just a movie star, he embodied a certain spirit of that time. Let me ask you this. Which era of films do you think had the most impact on today's cinema? The 70s, the 80s, or the modern indie movement? But what I've always admired about Redford is that he didn't just stop at being the handsome leading man. In 1980, he stepped behind the camera and directed Ordinary People. And not only did it succeed, it won the Academy Award for Best Picture and Best Director. That's a rare kind of leap, to go from being one of the biggest stars in front of the camera to also being celebrated as a director. How often do we see actors make that transition successfully? And then there's Sundance. If you've ever heard of the Sundance Film Festival, that was Robert Redford's vision. He wanted a place where filmmakers outside the Hollywood machine could have their voices heard. Think about how many indie films you've watched that felt raw, personal, and different from big studio movies. So many of those voices wouldn't have had a stage without him. Imagine how different cinema would be today if Sundance had never existed. Which indie film has stuck with you the most over the years? Beyond the movies, Redford was deeply passionate about nature and the environment. He lived in Utah, surrounded by the mountains and landscapes he loved. He wasn't the kind of star who chased the spotlight. He cared about conservation, about preserving the planet for future generations. I find that so admirable, especially in a world where fame can easily consume people. Don't you think it's powerful when someone uses their platform not just for their own career, but to make the world a little better? On a personal level, Redford's life wasn't without heartbreak. He lost a child very early on, and later his son James passed away after battling illness. Despite all the glamour of Hollywood, those losses show us he was human, just like anyone else, navigating joy and pain. Maybe that's part of why his performances felt so genuine. He understood what it meant to lose, to hope, to keep going. In his later years, Redford slowed down his acting work, but he never truly stepped away from his love of storytelling. And when he passed away peacefully in his home in Utah at the age of 89, tributes from around the world poured in. Friends, co-stars, filmmakers, and fans alike shared what he meant to them. Jane Fonda, his longtime collaborator, spoke about him with such affection. Meryl Streep called him one of the great lions of cinema. And I think that says it all. He wasn't just a star, he was a force, someone who elevated the art form. So here we are, looking back on nearly 9 decades of a life fully lived. As an actor, a director, a festival founder, and an activist, Robert Redford showed us that art can entertain, but it can also inspire, challenge, and even change the world. His work continues to shape the film industry, and his influence will live on in every independent filmmaker who dares to tell their story. Now, I want to turn the question to you. What's the Robert Redford film that had the biggest impact on you? Was it one of the classics like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? Or maybe a quieter film, or even one of the indie projects Sundance helped bring to life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Thanks so much for spending these minutes with me remembering Robert Redford. If you found this video meaningful, please give it a like. It really helps more people see it. And if you enjoy conversations about film, culture, and the people who shaped them, don't forget to subscribe and share this with a friend who might appreciate it too. Until next time, let's keep celebrating the storytellers who remind us what it means to be human.